Today is the 15th of June, 2021, and we're in the Destiny Global Studio. And we have with us here the Honorable Mr. Pierre with us. Welcome, Mr. Pierre. It's been a long time.
It's a very long time.
You know, but
Nice
it's great
meeting
to see you, man, and you look fantastic.
we haven't seen for a long while.
Yes, but St Lucia is always like home to me, from home to home. And, you know, it's always good to come here. And I would like to just put a few questions to you, because I know you are the leader of the opposition party.
Yeah, sure.
And how long have you been the leader of the opposition party?
Actually, it was in June 2016. Just as soon after we lost the elections, I was the deputy leader, and then I became the leader. And the convention of the party endorsed my leadership unopposed in October of the same year.
Okay.
And from that time, I have been re-endorsed by the General Council or the National Council of the party every October.
So the National Council is what gives you the harnessing to be the leader of the party?
Okay. Between conventions, the National Council is in charge of the party, basically. But the convention of the party and the annual conference of delegates, which happens every year, the delegates have a vote of confidence in the leader. So in June 2016, because of the constitution of the party, the National Council endorsed me as leader because I was deputy leader.
Okay.
And the annual conference of the party, which is in October of every year, confirmed my leadership by a vote. It was a vote of, I think there were probably 7 against in the vote, right? And every year after that, I've been re-endorsed. The last convention, I was re-endorsed with a no vote of 3 and a positive vote of 200 and something. But because of COVID, there was no convention in 2020.
So it's around 5 years since you've been leader.
Yes, basically, yeah, 5 years. Yeah.
And I'm sure that being leader, you're in a position now to take the party in the direction which you think it should go.
Yeah, well, you see, it's not a good thing to be leader when you've lost elections. So you see, I've come in a time when the party lost elections. We lost in June 2016, and then you have to rebuild the party because, you know, when you lose, you feel a sense of rejection, and the blame game begins. But I was very fortunate. I came, when I became leader, it was a very smooth transition.
Okay.
Very smooth. I mean, I got the full cooperation of both the former leader, that is Dr. Kenny Anthony, and the present leadership of the party, the executive. So it was very smooth for me. I mean, as all things, any change of leadership, there's you have to change some things. But I must say, I'm very happy for the confidence that the party and the executive and the party rank and file have in me. I'm very happy. I thank them for that, and I'll try my best to deliver the prize to them at the next general election.
And what do you think you've learned from being the leader of the party so far?
A friend of mine said to me, it was the hardest job in the world. I agree with him, particularly in opposition. You see, our system is the winner takes all. In politics generally, there is no second place. But particularly in St Lucia now, is the winner takes all. Our constituencies are starved. We get absolutely no government subvention or government allocation. We have to basically see about ourselves, and as parliamentarians, all what we have is our salaries. But we get no government allocation. The government doesn't discuss anything with us. According to the constitution of the party, that the Prime Minister must consult with the leader of the opposition. And the Prime Minister has defined his own mode of consultation. So it's really tough, and particularly when you find yourself in a situation where the government doesn't want to have any discussions with you. The government treats you, the Prime Minister said that we lost our right to speak on the 6th of June.
So isn't there a question time where Prime Minister question time?
There's a question time in Parliament, yes.
Right. Okay.
You can ask questions. But you know, these things are formal things, eh?
Yes.
But in terms of the opposition having, like, I'll give an example. I cannot get a drain cleaned in my constituency.
You cannot?
Cannot.
Why is that?
Because I'm not in government.
So once somebody is not in government, they literally push to the side.
They push aside, they cast aside. But when you're not in government, you cast aside. I cannot get a drain. I can't get a drain cleaned. And what if there is that there is a new style now? So what they do is that they promote the candidate that lost the elections. So suppose you compete against someone and you lose, and you win and the person loses. Okay. What happens? The government gives all the resources to the person who loses. Yeah, and they go say, "Oh, that guy is doing nothing for his constituency." That's the reality.
So there's no
so anything you do in the constituency, whether get from friends or from your own pocket. I cannot. If somebody comes to me and says to me, "MP, that drain needs cleaning," I can't tell him go and clean it.
So I would imagine for your constituency, there's a lot of disgruntled constituents
yes.
at the moment.
And you see, and that is why the system is so bitter and divisive. Because it's people voted for me as St Lucians. Right? Now people voted for all 6 of the MPs as St Lucians. Okay. But it appears as if, and it was clearly stated by a lady a few months ago. She said, if you do not get into the government's, if you don't follow the government's mode of development, you're out. She basically said so. And that was condoned by the Prime Minister. Here's an unelected member who lost an election is proclaiming that once you don't follow the government's development philosophy, you do not buy into the government's philosophy, so you are out. She said so.
It's a close shop.
The close shop for you. And the Prime Minister endorses it.
That is preposterous.
And so it really, and so when you find the bitterness and the divisiveness in the system, it's because people who support the Labour Party are out of the loop completely, up to the point of constituents. I said to you, Mark, I cannot clean a drain in my constituency. I can't get a tree trimmed. To get a light on a pole, I have to write the minister.
It cannot be done just
No, I cannot call the electricity company and say, I want a light on my pole. I have to go for the minister. So literally all what you have in opposition is your mouth and make noise. And so some people don't understand how the system works. The system works in that when you are out, but I'll tell you something. I have pledged that if we win the general elections, that system will stop. Every parliamentarian who is elected by the people will have a particular allocation for his constituency. I do not want any parliamentarian to suffer what I'm going through or what my colleagues are going through. It is really, 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 really sad.
It's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape.
It's not bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is a good word. It's victimization.
Yes.
It's marginalization. Not bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is when you have to run. Yeah, you'll be nice. Yeah. Like, imagine, I have a children's park in my constituency. A children's park. Now, this is not for Labour Party supporters, or it's a children's park. I can't get it. I had Wi-Fi in there for people, and it was a joy. Where on Sunday afternoons, the kids came with the parents on their phones doing their homework, and children in the swing. This thing needs some repair. The government refuses to repair it.
Education, a park.
Refuse to repair it. They refuse. They're just not doing it.
So where do you think this government has failed. And what is your party's plan?
This government failed in that the government came into power. The government, the Liberals came into power, they came into government in the country with an air of vengeance. Right? They came wanting to destroy everything that they found. Right?
So they overturned everything.
They overturned every possible thing. They overturned the airport, they overturned the Grosley Highway, they overturned the North-South Highway, they overturned the St. Jude Hospital, they overturned the North-South Link Road, they overturned the Suffrage Square, they overturned the Viewfort commercial building. They overturned the one laptop program. They just overturned everything they found.
So do you think it's they went out of their way to do this so that the opposition party...
They did not understand that governance is not about politics. Governance is about the way you conduct the affairs of the country. They don't understand that there is a bureaucracy that you must follow. So they believed that because they won the election, they could do whatever they wanted.
They have carte blanche.
Right, they have carte blanche. Yeah. So one MP says, "Oh, now you're crying. You've just started to cry." And another one said, "Because I stopped the program stopped because 90% of the supporters belong to the Labour Party." Right, and the Prime Minister himself said that we lost our right to speak after the 6th of June.
So where they failed, how do you see yourself tackling that problem where the government has failed?
First of all, when you go into government, you have to have an assessment of what's there.
Correct.
Okay? Like, now, if you have information before, then you're gonna, but this government gives us no information, nothing. I have no idea what's happening if you ask me what's happening in the airport, I'll tell you something. Let me get a joke. Do you know the budget?
Yeah, the budget.
I had a budget at the same time with you.
So you're not briefed?
Nobody briefs you. Nobody asks what you want in your consideration. I had the same time with you. So when I go to Parliament, I sit down, the Prime Minister, that's when I had.
So even in question time, nobody...
No, because it's a government of cabinet and a government of the eyes have it. Because every member of the cabinet is in Parliament, so there's no backbench. You understand? So if you go into government, like if you go into government now, the government has started a few projects. Like I will have to find out what's happening on the road right there, right? I'll have to find out what's happening at St. Jude. I don't know, I have to find out. I'll have to find out what's happening on the airport.
So you have to do your own personal research.
When you go into government, then hopefully the information will be there, hopefully.
But as opposition, you should be able to...
I should have been briefed, right? And in our system, there's no handover. It's not like the US where the president has handover. You win elections on Monday, on Tuesday you into the deep hole, right? Hopefully the civil service is supposed to do that for you. But the civil service part has been so politicized that you wonder what's happening there. But anyhow, I have full confidence in the people of St. Lucia, and I think the civil servants generally are men of good will.
Good character.
So we'll have to look into these projects. But I can assure the people of St. Lucia that any of these projects that are worthwhile,
you'll keep.
We'll keep. We have to. Because this government is suffering from abandoning projects that they could have moved to. Listen to me. The government destroyed 2 buildings at St. Jude's, Destroyed it. They put a tractor in it, a bulldozer, in 2 buildings. Now, let's work the lot logically. Let's be logical. You have people in a stadium now. Okay? The conditions in the stadium could never be compared to the conditions in buildings that were constructed for the hospital. Are you agreeing with that?
Agreed.
Right. Now, instead of the government, on the advice of experts, you see, anytime you say anything about a government that's a country view, they consider you an enemy. Right? They don't understand that you have an opinion, and that's your view. You're an enemy. Right? All the government had to do, on the advice of experts, doctors, engineers, specialists. All they had to do was to move the stadium into one section of the buildings. Because everything was there.
And they've been given advice by experts.
By experts said, listen to me, you move the St. Jude's from the stadium and put it in the east wing. That's all they had to do. Do you know these buildings? The buildings there, they are centers for quarantine. Yes, they are quarantine centers in the building there.
So instead of using hotels and things that's costly, they've been
Very
using that
simple.
now.
They're going to use them because the buildings are there. Now, the government had an audit. Up to today, they haven't said to the people what is in the audit. But the audit says that these buildings can be used for hospital, even though you do some amendments or renovations or changes. You've allowed the buildings to deteriorate. These buildings are there now for about 8 years, some of them. 7, 8 years. And you bulldoze two of them. In a poor country like St. Lucia, you put a bulldozer into buildings? A building that was built for you.
Absolute nonsense. so when they've done that now, and you come into power, these things, how are you going to tackle that?
First of all, the government is say they build a new hospital. They haven't disclosed not one tender. So I don't know what it costs. I don't know what the engineering costs. I don't know what I know nothing. I'm leader of the opposition. Right? Now, what they do is they give you a side thing and say, oh, you're chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. Right? The public doesn't understand or doesn't know what the Public Accounts Committee does. The Public Accounts Committee, it doesn't investigate government's finances, The Public Accounts Committee reports on the report of the Director of Audit when it is tabled in the Parliament. When it is tabled in the Parliament. And the Public Accounts Committee is a function of the Parliament, not a function of the Constitution.
So they still have control.
Exactly.
They still have control. So
right now, I have no idea what's happening at St. Jude. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know who are the contractors. I do nothing. But when you get into government, I can assure the people of St. Lucia that if our aim, our objective is to open the St. Jude Hospital as soon as it's possible.
Am I to assume that they have a hospital that they've opened recently? I hear people talking about a new hospital that is being built.
So that's the OKEU hospital, the Owen King General Hospital, Owen King European Hospital.
Is it a private hospital or is it for the public?
It's the largest investment by the European community in the region, in the OECS. It's built purely on funds from the Europeans, right? That hospital started the first. Now, again, you understand, a lot of the history has not been told. That hospital started in our time. The United Workers' Party were in power. And the hospital wasn't completed, It went through. So, a lot of the propaganda, then we came back, right? And the hospital was completed. That hospital is a very complex, massive structure. Now, the Europeans said, listen to me, our taxpayers are asking us what's happening to that money. That's what they're saying, right? So you need to show us that something is happening. So in February, we had a naming ceremony for the hospital. See, listen, that's where your money went?
Yes.
There is a building. Here's it, that's a building. So we named it the OKEU General Hospital. This government makes a big story. You name the hospital and you didn't open it. That was in February. We lost the election in June.
3 months.
3 months. when they came in, when the United Workers' Party got into government, there was the same way. There was a report on the conditions at St. Jude, done by engineers, not done by politicians, engineers. There was a transition report for the OKU outlining the stages which the government had to come from the old Victoria Hospital to the OKU Hospital. People had already begun to be trained, right? People had already begun to be trained. The equipment was here. You see? The government from 2016, they refused again to open it. And when COVID came in 2020, they were forced to open the hospital with the same people they said couldn't open it because they were locals.
So it seems as if they've done a good task by opening the hospital when they had it closed for a long time.
And they opened it, the same people they said they couldn't open it. But again, I understand that conditions there are not as they have shortage of medicines, but the fact is they are in a better physical structure, which I'm very happy for the people of St. Lucia.
Just moving on to the pandemic, because we touched on it. It has been a tight situation for every political leader, for every country in the world to deal with. How do you think that the present government has dealt with the pandemic, and what do you think you would do different if you do anything different?
First of all, I must state clearly that the government did not cause the pandemic. The pandemic is a worldwide phenomenon, and then for any government, that's a difficult time.
It is.
Very difficult time.
Because anybody can lead in good times.
Exactly. But for most governments, they would have seized the opportunity to bring the country together. And that's what I would have done differently. If I was the Prime Minister of St. Lucia in this time of pandemic, you would not even know the difference of government and the opposition.
So you bring everybody together?
Everybody together.
Yes.
Both parties, I bring the leader of the opposition in my confidence. Yes. There are some countries, I think it's in Denmark, where an opposition member was made the Minister of Health in the government. I don't remember that, if you know that. Yeah. Because that's a time when everybody's panicking. Cool. So he pulled it. Yes. But the government began the division immediately. I made a statement. I said St. Lucia was the worst prepared country for the pandemic. Let me tell you the conditions under which I said so. When I said so, St. Lucia had absolutely no quarantine. They had no quarantine facilities. The Prime Minister is speaking about quarantine at Rat Island. St. Lucia had no testing. St. Lucia had no testing capabilities when I said so. Right? St. Lucia had absolutely no idea as to how many people, because there was no testing.
There was no testing, so you can't find out how many people got it.
So I said St. Lucia was prepared.
Right? You were lambasted for that, I suppose.
I was denigrated. I was treated like this comedy of. And I've lived to see the day. And I'm not gloating about it. I'm very, very concerned about it because I'm St. Lucia. I know people who have died in COVID. St. Lucia has done the worst in COVID management in the OECS.
And even now,
St. Lucia has more people dead than the entire OECS put together. So you have to look at it in relative terms. It's still the same way. No, that's nothing to gloat about.
No, it isn't.
It's something to be sorry about. But the fact is, the government, in the head of all this, I gave the government a 7-point plan.
You did?
Yes. As usual, they just brushes and the surrogates just continue to attack. And right now, what's happening? The country is more divided than it should be. Look at the issue with vaccination. Vaccination is very emotive situation. Right? When the first dose of vaccines came, I said I will allow the first responders and the people who are in the front line of the fight against COVID to get vaccinated first. Doctors, nurses, orderlies.
Yes.
The government lambasted me. They had,
what everybody does anyway
they had
in the world.
memes, etc. Only to know that that's what most leaders did. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Listen to me. I didn't say I wasn't taking the vaccine, you know. I said I was allowing the frontliners to take it first. But as usual, this is the myopic nature of this government. They lambasted me. All kind of memes, all kind of nonsense, because I said that. When the time came, I took the vaccine. See, I always said I would have taken. Then I took the second dose.
And I have got the second dose to prove it too.
Exactly. But what I was saying is that let the people who matter most.
Yes.
Now,
The old the people.
exactly.
Frail.
Now, the Prime Minister made the cardinal mistake of linking vaccination to elections. And that threw it all over. That threw it away. So the vaccine hesitancy is part of the reason why the Prime Minister's utterings. The Prime Minister should never speak about vaccines because he understands the nature. He doesn't understand the nature of the people of St. Lucia.
And also you have to balance life with livelihood. You cannot go on a road. You have to have a 5-point plan. You've got to have a plan. It's a journey.
We had a 7-point.
Yeah, you have a 7. You have to. There has to be a journey to come out of it. So for you, if you got back in government, you would still reinstate this 7-point plan.
Okay. When you get into government, first of all, we'll insist on testing. You have to test. Because if you don't test, you have no idea. Your R factor is unknown. You have to testing, because you cannot wait until somebody has the visible signs of COVID to know they have COVID. You have to test. So my priority is going to be testing. You got to test. That's my first priority. My second priority is to create some level of economic ease for the people who have suffered from COVID. Financially.
Wasn't that any financial packages put in place?
Okay. Then let me give you the facts. The facts are the government paid 3 months NIC to workers. 3 months NIC. The people got paid their own NIC money back for 3 months. And then according to the government's financial, but the government's budget, as proclaimed by the Prime Minister, he said that they paid $7.2 million of support to people. They gave some food packages, boxes of food, right? And they said they helped 3,000 households. That's a sum total. That's what they said, according to their own report.
Auditing.
Right? Now, my situation, if I was Prime Minister, I would have ensured that more support, because people are hungry.
Yes, they are.
People are hungry. Now, you can sit in your ivory tower and tout about roads, etc. But people are hungry. Because you must understand, the hotel industry is closed or was closed. And the hotels employed 15,000 people directly.
And a lot of the hotels are still semi-closed.
Now, what about the entertainers? The people who lived from the hotel sector, the restaurants, the entertainers, the musicians, they live on the road. They're not working. There was a moratorium on mortgages, but you have to still pay your interest. Middle-class families are suffering. People who low-income families are even suffering more. So the government should have directed its resources at people.
On
And
the ground level.
At the ground level, at all levels of the society, small businesses, vendors.
So these people didn't get no financial package?
No major financial, some got $500, some so. But the government can find $20 million to spend on less than a mile of road.
And there was no financial package put in place for small business?
No major financial package, no. So I'm Prime Minister of the country. Yes. I will generate the internal economy by putting money in food. People must eat. Maslow, his hierarchy of wants are food.
Yes,
Maslow, food first. People, and I'm very sad to tell you, people are hungry. In my constituency office every day. Because they just don't have any income.
Well, I drive along here and I see things are closed and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, but why is it? So if you become Prime Minister, obviously these are issues that you're going to address.
So my 7-point plan will involve testing. Yeah. Secondly, it will involve an economic and social package that will get people back to work. And will get money to be circulated more in the economy. I don't know how much money there is left because the government is going into extensive borrowing. Thirdly, I would get education back on stream because children have lost a year of schooling. And then the government boasts that they give 10,000 laptops or e-books. There are 25,000 children in the school system.
And they have made no preparation
for
that year of
right.
schooling them.
No, they say they've given 10,000.
Okay.
Let's get the benefit of the doubt. What happens to the other 25? So many children have lost that year. Totally. Because many children still don't have devices.
And a lot of children as well, they learn in different ways. Some children they cannot learn practically.
Exactly. So I would try to revive that if I go into government. Then I'll say about treatment. I don't believe that people, when they have COVID, should be treated like prisoners. I don't think so. I really don't think so, right? I believe that COVID facilities should be humane and people should not be ashamed to say they have COVID. And they want to get treatment. But the sad reality is a man hanged himself in the hospital. He hanged himself in the hospital.
Can you believe that?
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Now, I said to the parliament, you don't understand the way a man feels when he's locked up in a room. You're better off in prison.
Nobody can get to you, nobody can come in.
Because in prison you have other prisoners, because the prison has its own life. Prison has its own rules, its own. But if COVID, you're in isolation.
So that is an area that you would look is on the 7-point plan.
Yeah, that's treatment. And the other part of the 7-point plan is that we will have an orderly opening of our borders. Open our borders in an orderly fashion. Right? We believe that testing is the key. Once you test, you have the problems. Testing. So we'll have an orderly, with consultation, we'll have an orderly opening of the borders. Soft and orderly. Right? And then we would not blame the people. They say it was backdoor from Martinique. The people always get blamed for these things.
I think worldwide as well, they always blame the Chinese, they blame this. But the main thing is dealing with the situation. When you're in a situation like this, it is very difficult for any country to deal with it.
That's why you need agree. That's why you need all hands on deck.
Yeah. You know, and you're going back to your 7-point plan. If you become the Prime Minister, that is one of the first things.
We have to, because up until now, the world has not dealt with COVID. You know, we don't know. We have no idea. In England, the numbers seem to be going up. Agreed?
Yes, agreed.
Yes. Agreed. There are new variants all the time.
but they're still opening up because they're balanced.
They
with the
balancing
testing.
and give the testing.
Testing.
Now, the whole vaccination situation. Vaccination can only be done through moral suasion and through education. You cannot threaten people to get vaccinated. You cannot.
Or bribe.
You have to follow the science. And if education and moral suasion and the government using its influence to ask people to get vaccinated.
The vaccination program here, how much people do you think have been vaccinated?
29,000 people have been vaccinated for the first dose and about 20,000 for the second dose. And St Lucia has a population, if you leave out kids, children, probably about 100, 110 and 20,000. So we're nowhere near immunity as yet, nowhere near it.
I suppose as well, if you look at it, you have to take things, by the way, if you had testing, you wouldn't be having this
That problem, no.
Your economy would have been opened, and at least you would be filtering.
Because people would know, yeah.
Yes.
People would know. Yeah. You could, because when you test, you know what really is the situation on the ground. You know.
We touched briefly on the OECS, and I know the other OECS countries. How do you see yourself dealing with those prime ministers?
I'm a regionalist, and I think this region is too small to be divided. St Lucia has 170,000 people. St Vincent 100,000. That's 270. Dominica 70. That's 240. Grenada about 80 or 90. That's 330. 330, right? That's 24,000 people in 4 islands. You know. That's not the size of that's a
drop in the ocean.
Yeah, I mean in London, 40,000 people. I mean it's something else.
So you have to work together.
And you have to have. You see, the politicians are the ones who sometimes seem to divide the people. You know, the people of the region are together. There's a vibrant trade between St Vincent and St Lucia. Right? Vincentians like here, we like St Lucia because it's closer. People trade, they sell their food. There's a vibrant trade with St Vincent. Grenadians, Grenadian policemen over here. The people themselves have created their own integration, their own integration. Without anyone doing that. But the politicians are going to put the barriers.
Separation.
You know, it irked me. When somebody comes in Russia, a man comes from St. Vincent, you give him 3 weeks to stay, or 6 weeks, and tell him you have to come and sign his passport, saying that will keep out criminals. Yes. But even though you're a criminal, you want to come, you come here? Yeah. No criminal comes and asks you to endorse his passport. No criminal asks you to endorse his passport for him.
So that era of the OECD, you will be strengthening that era.
I would love to see really the countries have real freedom of movement.
Because I see it with the CSME as well.
The CSME is Caribbean Single Market and Economy. Yes. But again, the people are keeping that back. The politicians, the people are ready.
Because I remember a long time, nobody has spoken about CARICOM and all about these things. It's almost like these things are dead.
It's alive, but there are some things that are working well. The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is a feature of integration, very, very well. Working very, very, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, right? The OECS Drug Procurement Authority, where they buy medicines together, that's working very well, yeah. The Eastern Caribbean Aviation Authority, which St Lucia's Prime Minister doesn't like at all, is working very well. The University of the West Indies is still working well. So the tools for integration are there, and they can work, and they will work once the politicians allow it to work.
Because you cannot have small regions like you mentioned like that. divided and singled out. When you mentioned the Eastern Caribbean dollar, I'm always jealous thinking Jamaica should have that dollar
Yeah.
because it's a very
It's
strong.
a very strong dollar. It's one of the strongest
Yes.
currencies in the world.
It is. And that's something to be proud of.
Very proud of. And because of the fact that they've followed the rules.
Yes.
The Monetary Council has followed the rules, and then the governments have been forced to comply with the ECB.
So you will be having closer links with these areas.
I know some of
Make
the
sure.
I know some of the prime ministers. I know most of them. So I guess we can get together because you see the leadership. You have to lead by example. Okay, the leadership of these countries, and you have to understand that we are in this thing together, and we just at different stages of underdevelopment.
You mentioned leadership, and I just picked that word straight out. Because if anyone who is leading any industry or anything, the people follow the leader. If the leader is not setting examples, then it's almost like the people are going in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
From going back to from the plan that you have, do you think the people of St. Lucia will follow you?
If they elect me,
Yes.
then that's the first stage. The second stage, I'll talk to them. You see, you cannot talk down on people. You have to talk with them. And then you have to bring the opposition, on board. Because, listen to me, I don't think, and probably I've been in this thing for so long, I understand how it works. The government has 11 seats in the parliament, we have 6. So it appears, there's a big majority. In essence, the difference is only about 7,000 people here.
And that's not a big majority.
No, it's not. Let me give an example. Grenada, the government won all the seats in the parliament. There was a referendum and the government lost.
They lost.
Yes. And on the surface, you say, all the people support the government. So, when you win elections, and you win on first past the post, one vote gets you through, So if you win 17 seats by one vote, you have a 17 not majority. There's only one person.
It's not a lot.
It's not a lot. It's only one person. It's only one person who elected you.
But
One more person. But it seems huge. And that is what the politicians have not learned. When they get into government, they believe they are Lord and mighty. They control everything. It's not the case.
So, are you in agreement like now they've called election early? How do you?
Again, the last elections were held on the 6th of June 2016. Convention dictates election are held 5 years later. So 6th of June 2021 supposed to have elections.
Okay.
But they're doing nothing wrong constitutionally. I want to make it clear. They're doing nothing wrong constitutionally, but the Constitution says that the elections can be held up to 3 months after the first sitting of Parliament. The first sitting of Parliament is the 12th of July. So they have 3 months, which is 12th of October. So constitutionally, they have up to the 12th of October to call elections, constitutionally. But convention dictates that after 5 years, call the elections. So the government is in the sixth year.
So they've run over their time. They still.
Yes, according to the convention.
And when is the election? In October? Or?
Again, that's
one
only
knows.
in the Prime Minister's brain. He alone knows. No one knows.
So no one knows the exact date of the
No,
election?
no one knows. All you know, it must be held before the 12th of October.
That's very hazy.
Very.
Nothing. And that is,
I told you earlier, it's a winner take all.
yeah. But just coming back to all of this, because you've made some very good points, and I wanted to get back to the leadership Because again, leadership is very, very important to so many different fields. People think that the leadership is just by talking. You've got to lead from example, the example that you set. And from what I've seen, do you think that this government has led for people to follow?
My opinion?
Yes.
They've not. As I said to you earlier, this government came into office with an air for vengeance, for political retribution. If you listen to the campaign that's going on now, you think the Labour Party is in government, you know. If you listen to the government-sponsored radio, you'll think the Labour Party is in government. They have not understood that the people of St. Lucia voted the Labour Party out. So they are just rehashing all the things that they feel the Labour Party did that they shouldn't do. Rehashing, and getting negative and attacking personalities.
And not dealing
with the issues. So that's poor leadership. See, leadership, you can lead, you must lead by example, but you can also lead by persuasion. And this is the essence of my style. I believe in the concept of the servant leader. I believe that to lead people, you must be with them, you must understand them, and you must go in. I don't believe in the high and mighty ruler. I'm not a maximum leader. I don't think it is start with me and end with me. I think I work with a team, and then all members of the team have a particular job to do, and they should do it.
You're as good as your team.
Exactly.
It's almost like the West Indies cricket.
Exactly.
We won't talk about
these days. But so I don't believe in the fact that because I'm the leader, I must be always up front, and I must always, I would like to lead with example, discuss, but the important thing, leading by example. You've got to lead by example. If you tell the men that they must go to their constituencies once a week, you must go once a week yourself. You mustn't say you're too big to go and other fellows can go. I don't believe in the do as I say, but I do as I do. But I think leadership, what we need now is leadership that will bring the country together. Close. You need leadership that can bond the people. You need leadership that the people will trust. You need a prime minister, when he opens his mouth, people will believe him. When the prime minister opens his mouth, he speaks policy, that is what a prime minister is. So the prime minister must always be believed. You should never doubt the utterances of the prime minister.
And in this case?
In this case, people doubt the prime minister has proven sometimes to either forget or not speak the truth.
And on the global stage, internationally, like for globalization, do you think the present government has done anything towards globalization?
The present government purported to have good relationships with the US. Right? The prime minister went to visit President Trump, etc. But St. Lucia is a speck. But St. Lucia's influence can be there. St. Lucia's influence. St. Lucia's, and then this is why we are speaking about a youth economy. Because the young people of the country, they are the ones who will propel the country forward.
They're the ones who are going to lead in the future.
And they're not only going to propel the country forward by being lawyers and doctors and economists and this kind of thing. They'll propel the country forward by being musicians, by being videographers, by being artists, by being sound engineers, by sports. Exactly. That is how they'll propel the country. You understand? So we believe in the creation of a youth economy where we are going to ensure that young people develop and go into enterprises that they like. Too many times we say to young people what to do.
going this because of money? It makes you
No.
money?
Or we build a hotel for you, go and work there.
Okay.
We have a call center, go and work at the call center. And we say to them, you do that. We never ask young people, what do you really want to do? There is nothing wrong in working in a hotel. Absolutely nothing wrong. It's a source of employment. There's nothing wrong in working in a call center. I was involved in negotiations for call centers. What I'm saying, young people may want to be a good musician. That's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to work in a hotel.
That's his gift. It could be his
He wants to be in gift. He wants to be in music. The youth economy will convert that skill he has into entrepreneurship and that skill into business. So he'll use his music to make money.
I think that youth economy could be on your 7-point plan.
The 7-point plan was for COVID treatment.
Yeah, okay,
but in terms of the general economy, our plan is basically to put more money in the pockets of people, right? So we're going to reduce income tax. We're going to, anybody who gets less than $4,000 a month will pay no income tax. So that will create a multiplier effect in the economy, a stimulus economy. Secondly, we are going to pay facility fees for all children at schools. Because right now, facility fees are not free. Schools are not free because people pay facility fees. Thirdly, we're going to remove students from having to pay to do CX in English and maths. Fourthly, we're going to remove property taxes. Fifthly, in terms of business, we're going to have a business recovery strategy, which means a complete looking at taxes, duties, and processes to make business easier and to facilitate business.
Not so much red tape, not so much administration, not so much
processes. Yeah.
And property tax, will you include stamp duties?
No. Property tax is tax on physical property.
Okay.
Here's what it is. A young man, a couple, they just got a mortgage. They had to pay taxes. They had to pay. We had to give them a chance to spend the money the way they want it. And this is why we're going to reduce the income tax threshold. We'll increase it so we can have more money to spend. But generally, we now have to look at the youth to drive that new economy forward.
And where do you think, after giving all those stimulus, you'll get the money to balance the books?
There's what you call indirect taxation.
Okay.
People have to pay on consumption.
And I know you were Minister
and
of
then
Tourism.
government and my government will try to eliminate corruption as far as possible. So you can, because corruption has a cost, you know. There's a cost to corruption. When you build a road that for $5 million and you pay 10 for it, that extra 5 could have been used to do things for people. So there's a cost for corruption. People seem to just think they don't put corruption in the same place as health and as education things. But corruption is an integral part of a country, because when there's corruption, resources that could be used for the development of the country are used other places. So corruption is a source. And if you eliminate corruption and you eliminate waste, you'll be surprised to the millions of dollars you can save.
So you'll be curtailing on corruption? Anyway.
I will be trying my best to curtail on corruption.
I know just before we conclude, I know you were Minister of Tourism before, and you must have learned a lot along that. What would you do with tourism to attract more people onto your shores?
First of all, you must bring the people into the tourism process. You have to bring them in. Right? Now, the government of St Lucia, they still have the idea that tourism must be something that is almost elitist, right? I think that it must bring the people, must bring people buying into tourism. This is why, as Minister of Tourism, I had a philosophical notion: the benefits of tourism must accrue to as many people as possible. the benefits.
Yes, the
So if the benefits accrue, then people will buy in. So our government will try to get as much benefits of people as possible so they can buy in.
Don't you think also depending on tourism for a huge part of your economy,
There isn't overdependence.
You will digress into agriculture.
Into modern agriculture.
Yes.
We've gone there before.
Yes.
The government promised to send bananas to Martinique. They never did. So we've gone there before. We've gone there before. We're going to deal with modern agriculture. Modern agriculture. And that's when my youth economy comes into being. Then you have the whole cannabis industry, which you have to look at seriously.
That's a big market.
It's a big, we have to look at it. And we can't fool people, we cannot delude people about the cannabis industry. You have to be straight, and our party has been clear on that. You know, but we believe, right, that there's a future for agriculture. But agriculture is going to be modern agriculture and diversified agriculture. And the blue economy, fishing, and use of the oceans, something our government will.
Because you have that facility.
Exactly. Right.
Facility.
And renewable energy. When the government came into power, there was a wind farm being constructed in Dennery. Yeah, we to just go.
So all these things you have on your 7-point plan and also your economic recovery plan.
Yes.
For the future.
For the future of St Lucia, yeah.
If you become
And a new transformative education agenda. Education.
You think a lot of the education has declined from?
Well, it got a hit for COVID.
Yes.
Right? But again, education must prepare people for the world of work. And then, so you've got to match your skills with your education process. And you can't do that by legislation. You have to do it by dialogue. Communication.
And that is how you see
St Lucia going far. But I think I'm very buoyed about St Lucia. Yeah. I think St Lucia, with a good government, will go a long way. I think we have people, and we have a lot of people out of the country, you know.
Who wants to come back?
Yes, we're going to make a concerted effort to bring these people back into the country.
To attract them back.
Returning
resident.
And we're going to go above the ordinary to get them back home. We believe in people, and we think the people are there, and the people will develop the country. The people will develop the country, and the people are capable and willing to develop the country.
From what I've heard from you, Mr. Charles, Pierre, I think that your plan looks very, very solid, and there's a lot that you still have to do, but you must know what the country needs at this present moment. And I think that St. Lucia, as you said, is ripe for everything. A lot of people love St. Lucia. They love coming here. And, you know, I hope that you do get into power to do these things.
Thank you very much.
And it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. And do enjoy the rest of your stay.
Thank you very much.
Stay safe.
Yes, all the best.
Bye.